Route 91 affected me because it's kind of difficult to know, like, this is Nevada and the Strip somewhere me and my friends go all the time, and to think that something like that could happen to us and we're supposed to feel safe and comfortable there, it kind of was devastating. I personally knew some people there that got hurt, and it wasn't really a good feeling just to know something like that could happen. Now I know my parents and friends' parents, they're always worried, what if we're gonna go to the Strip, what might happen? Just like, for example, New Year's. New Year's is coming up, there's millions of people in Vegas. So it could really strongly affect me and others. What if we go and something else happens? We really wouldn't feel as safe as we did in this state anymore, just because that one person, it's like we're personally scarred.
Route 91 really affected me because it's my hometown. I was born and raised here. To think that could have been me out there or a friend, it's devastating. It's a permanent mark on me and others. Like, how could people just be allowed to bring a gun to Nevada? Every time I see someone with a gun, I don't feel safe. We should all stick together and be Vegas strong.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace.
Morning, law enforcement officials say they've been working around the clock looking for clues. Their top priority is find a motive, but that has not been easy.
And just now, police have identified the suspect to NBC News. Here we go. His name is Stephen Paddock.
Good morning. As all you may know, at this year's Route 91 festival, it soon turned into modern-day America's worst mass shooting in history. When Stephen Paddock opened fire onto a crowd of 22,000 people, he killed 60 and injured about 500 more. Today we have someone who was attending the concert. Let's hear her story.
So we were 7 songs in, and we heard what sounded like fireworks, and I was standing with myself and 5 other people, and me and the immediate 2 that I was standing next to both looked to the right side because we were closer on, if you're facing the stage, on the right side, and we looked to the right because that's where you could hear the sound coming from, and we couldn't see anything because we thought it was part of the show. And then it lasted just a little bit, and then the music kept going, and so there was nothing that showed. And so my girlfriend had made a comment and said, "Oh, that's weird, somebody brought in fireworks. I don't know how somebody got them in here." And then song keeps playing, the next song starts, and then that's when it started to go for a much longer period of time, and we were all looking around trying to figure out again where it was coming from because we couldn't see anything. And then at that point, somebody behind us yelled, that's gunshots and you need to get down. So we did, and we started ducking down, and one of my guy friends wrapped his arms around us because we had no idea where it was actually coming from. It did not seem like it was coming from above. And we were kind of down, hunched over, and when there was a pause in between the sounds, we started to stand back up because somebody started yelling that we need to run. And so we stood up, and when I stood up is when I started to kind of look around and get to understand the severity of what was going on, because what really prompted us to actually duck down, besides the person behind us yelling us to duck down, is when the person who was performing, he ran off stage. And then that's when we realized that something major was going on. And with that, and we started looking around and seeing just what had already happened, and the closeness to us of the people who were hit and were no longer there. And then at that point, everybody's pushing and shoving to try to run and to get out. And at that point, the friends that I were with, they went in a different direction, and I just went straight ahead trying to get over this fence. And then I couldn't get over the fence right away, and I didn't try to look for my friends. I went to the left to try to go around, and so I went around, and I saw that people were going underneath this audio stage. So then at that point, I went underneath the audio stage, which was only a few feet high, and there was about 15 other people hiding underneath the stage. And so while we were underneath there, somebody was yelling that they were an off-duty cop and that he was trying to put a tourniquet on somebody's leg, and that, you know, we needed to get out of there because the shooter was getting closer. And then as that was happening, he was saying, okay, we need to go now, because there was another break in the sounds of the gunshots. And so I had to kind of push out because I was one of the last people to get in there. So there was me and a pile of people to my left in the way that we needed to go to get out of where we were at. And so then as they moved, and I tried to get people and telling them that, hey, like, this guy said we need to move, they started to move and crawled out from underneath. And as we got out from underneath, somebody grabbed me and threw me over a fence. It landed flat into like stuff that I wasn't processing. And then I looked over again to my left and saw a lady that I wanted to try to help, but then I realized that she wasn't there any longer either. And at this point, the pretty much the entire venue, besides people who were injured or people who were assisting, was completely cleared out. And there was the last actual round, short burst of gunfire at that point. And I ran out to the back of the place and ran straight to the parking lot. And the cops were ducked down back there, and then there's people kind of helping. There was people that were injured, and I just went to the parking lot and tried to find any car that I could to try to get out of there, because the whole time as I was trying to leave to get out of there, all I could think of is, this isn't what I wanted to have happen for my kids. And so got out to the back and was able to find somebody who was kind enough to give me a ride, along with, there was 5 other girls who ended up jumping into this person's truck. One immediately got out around the block, and then he ended up giving us a ride as we were able to try to get away from the strip as quickly as we could before we kind of got stuck in there. And he gave us a ride over to the Rio. And I was able to find out right away that one of my friends made it over to Hooters, and then he ended up finding our other 2 friends that made it over there. And that's when I found out that one of the girls that had been with us had been shot in the leg, and then my other immediate friend had gotten hit in her arm and back, even though she did not fully realize the extent of what happened to her until the next day because her adrenaline was running so high. But then after I got there and we got to the Rio and made sure that everybody that I knew was accounted for, and then I was able to find out about them. Then I went over to someone's house and kind of just tried to process everything that was going on, and was just watching the news, because it wasn't until we drove off from the venue did somebody say that the shooting was actually coming from above and at Mandalay Bay. And that was, in some ways, I realized that where I was able to hide from after the initial part was one of one of the better spots that we could have been in because of the metal that was above us. But the initial spot we were in, I've come to find out, was the most highly hit area of the entire place. So then I just spent the next day just trying to process and trying to figure out what had happened. Didn't sleep. Just kind of in shock for that next good week and a half. And since then, I've been able to link with a good therapist and see the therapist since then, and kind of go from weekly sessions to now I won't see her until like every couple weeks because of my progression since then. There are some triggers with things, and it's mainly just sounds, because those are the sounds that you can't forget. And it's just kind of a day-to-day thing.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move.